Well, now we're really getting into some real nitty-gritty of algebra here. The concept in this one is to collect or combine. Sometimes they call it what are called like terms. And I guess we should start by talking about what a term is. When you see an algebraic expression, so it's a collection of numbers and letters like this, maybe it's 2x plus 3. There are actually two terms here. One is the 2x term and one is the 3, and then they're added together. Things that are multiplied together become part of the same term, but in this case they're different terms. One little caveat here is that if you had an expression like this, 2x plus 3x, that looks like it's two terms, but since the letters are exactly the same, you can just add those together, and that actually equals 5x. 2x's plus 3x's equals 5x's. So this is actually only one term after you simplify it. The trick with collecting or combining like terms is just to make sure that the letters are the same in each group. So this has a G and an X, okay, and there are -2 of them. This one just has a G, so it's not a like term with this one. This one has a G and an X, so that is a like term with the first one, and there are +6 of them. So those two we could go ahead and combine or collect together. And we're just going to add them. A +6 and a -2, if you were going to put together a +6 and a -2, you would end up with 4gx. Now I look at the next term here, this 2g. This term is also just a g, a -7g, so those are like terms. And a 2 and a -7, if you added those together, you would get a -5g. So that is the answer for that one once we've collected the like terms. Let's try another one of those. Now in this one you see a c squared, and you have to be careful because this is not the same as a c term. The letters have to be the same, only those letters, and have the same exponents. So if I start with this -6c squared, I look through the rest of the terms, there aren't any other c squared terms. So this one just stays by itself. In fact, we're going to write it down in the answer here. The next term I see is just a c term, and it's a +c, which actually you should think about as a +1c. We don't write the 1, but that's how many c's there are there, so that's what it is. And then here's another c term. It's a -c, and again, it's like a -1c. So these two terms are like terms. When we add them together, though, you've got a +1 and a -1. That would add up to 0c, and that's just 0. 0 times anything is 0. So we don't even write that down in the answer. It's like it just disappears. And then we have some just plain numbers, and when they're just plain numbers, they can of course be combined. I've got a -4 and a +4, and in this case, the -4 and the +4, you add those together, they also make 0. So our whole answer is that. The next couple of problems have to do with the terms monomial, binomial, and trinomial. Those are big words, but you probably know that mono means 1. And my guess is you know that bi means 2 and tri means 3. And the nomial part just means that's the number of terms they have. So a monomial would have 1 term. A binomial would have 2 terms, like 2x plus 3. A trinomial might have 3 terms, like 3x squared plus 5x minus 1. 1, 2, 3 terms. So let's look at this one. Classify the expression as a monomial, binomial, or trinomial, and we get 4x squared. Well, that's just 1 term. There's no plus or minus anything else. So that is going to be a monomial. Let's do one more like that. Classify the expression as a monomial, binomial, or a trinomial, and we have 6x squared plus 8x plus 1. Each of these that are separated by a plus sign here are different terms. That's a term, that's a term, that's a term. And there's 3 of them. Before we decide for sure that this is a trinomial, we ought to check and see, can any of them be collected as like terms. This one's got an x squared, which is not the same as an x, So those two don't go together, and this one doesn't have any x's at all. So they are all separate terms that can't be combined or collected. So this indeed is a trinomial. So that's a little bit about terms and collecting like terms.